We should have made it, Mark, after some technical difficulties. Welcome, everyone, to the second Go-to-Network show. Really, really pleased to be joined by Mark Killens today. Thank you for joining, Mark. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah. Thanks, Christian, for having me. Mark Killens, longtime go-to-market operator, leader. I'm currently the co-founder, CEO of a company called TAC. And I was at HubSpot, though, before TAC, Drift, Arameet. Saw some great things, Christian. Learned a ton over the last 17, 18 years. And I'm continuously learning, which I'm sure we'll talk about today, right? Like learning is everything, basically, when it comes to the space we're in.
For sure. So off the bat then, let's jump into it. Seems so we're running a little bit late. Generic marketing. What is it? Why is it a plague? And what's the damage that it causes?
Generic marketing, generic go-to-market. The first way I think about it is it's putting your company first, not people. Just like, look, we're a company, we're great, we have all these amazing things. Look at us. Second, it's about like the status quo. You get sucked into the status quo. It's so dangerous and hard, and people become complacent and lazy. I think that's the other piece. Number 3, it's kind of just like lazy marketing. It's just like lazy sales, right? You're just like, no one. I mean, you can be lazy at some points, Christian, right? Being lazy is okay.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to grow a business, make a real impact on someone, you can't be lazy. And I was always taught early on, especially in my days at HubSpot, that our goal is to have an impact on people. How do you make someone improve the quality of their life, improve the quality of their business, improve the quality of their workday? And impact is what it's all about. And I don't think generic marketing, generic go-to-market will really have that level of impact because it's bland. It's not differentiated. It's just not very good. So we'll give some examples. But yeah, I mean, what do you think?
So I think a lot of companies out there are doing like marketing paint by numbers. They go, okay, we do webinars, we do some LinkedIn ads, we produce a white paper every 3 months, and it's enough to say that they're doing marketing, but they're not going a level deeper and saying like, are we communicating how we're changing the world in a way that's going to break through the noise? And it may be your brand isn't even going to completely change the world, but Are you trying to break through the noise, or are you just happy being a part of the noise, but saying, okay, at least we placed a small bet?
It's not changing the world. It's about how you're having an impact on people. It's like how your brand and product will impact someone, right? That's what it's about. I mean, yeah, if you end up changing the world down the road, great, cool. But like, yeah, that platitudinal type thing is just like, blah, whatever. I don't like that. But like, it's just about impact. So yeah, people are doing the bare minimum. They're checking the box. If you just check the box, that's a form of generic marketing. Right? Like, all right, we did a webinar, great. We did some promotion, we wrote some emails, did nothing unique, nothing fun, nothing interesting, right? Like, it's vomit.
And then why does that happen? Like, why? Like you said, it's laziness, but like, surely the marketing leader wants to be more adventurous.
Well, it's there's so many. I'd love to hear what other people think about why it happens, but I think it's actually a lack of like education. There's a component of that. There's a lack of like willing to take risk. There's maybe a lack of investment. There's a lack of money. There's like I said, education, lack of skill set. Being fearful that how you're going to present yourself. Like, I think if you're genuine with your intentions, then be yourself. Like be who you are. Like just be genuine. Like I actually don't love the word authentic. It's a fine word, but like it's being tossed around pretty willy-nilly these days. And I think someone can be authentic, but they might not always be genuine, right? Like so.
Tell me more. Like what's the difference for you there?
I mean, I think one is about trust and being helpful, and you could be authentic but be still an asshole. I'm an authentic asshole. Yeah. I mean, what do you think?
It's a good question. I mean, I've never. I suppose for me, then it's the words that come after genuine. So, right, authentic for me, stands alone as a word that I understand. Okay, what would it mean for the person? But like genuine in what? Genuine in trying to help me. Genuine. That's where my brain goes. But there's still like an intent that I'd want to see, and it's the same with brands. It's not just with people. Like, okay, is this genuinely what they're about, and how are they helping me?
Yeah. I need someone. Devin says I need sliders and more pop up on my website. Hello, Mac. Mac's flying over to America from Europe right now. What's up, Mac? Yeah, and I mean, someone who's, I think, genuine, like really cares about other people in a genuine way. And yes, there's authenticity there for sure. They're definitely very related. But with the marketing today, you need to really think about, how am I connecting with the audience? It's about connection, right? Like this hopefully allows us to connect a bit more with the audience, right? Like that's, sure, you can still blast things out and whatnot, but it's about this genuine connection that you have to do. So when you do a webinar, for example, try to design the webinar and how you prepare for it so that people feel like they're actually getting something that's interesting, that's helpful, that they feel like is going to help them better understand something that impacts them in some way, right? Like it goes back to impact, right? Like, so like the people that are just doing webinars for the sake of webinar just to get leads, it's like, no, it's not about leads. That's like a down the road outcome. Like the first thing you got to do is build a reputation, and a webinar is a way to build a reputation and build that connection and that relationship and that trust, so that maybe you could enter into a partnership with that lead, with that person at some point. So it's a different mindset. So the bottom line, Christian, is you have to have a different mindset. And Comstor does this so well when it comes to cultivating and growing an audience together with that audience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I hosted the webinars back at PlanHat, and one thing that worked really well, we'd always make them really engaging. We actually started doing like a style where the people were going to be set challenges basically and have to discuss how they would approach it. So you were catching someone actually having to think, and you were seeing not just their answer, but how they got to the answer. But often we would get onto the topic of managing people. At a certain point, you're speaking with leaders, they're going to talk about managing people. And it was at those moments when we got something really human as well that I found it was really important. It really, really worked and everyone benefited. Just changing the pace. You're trying to make it fun and engaging, but when you got something really human, actually slowing it down and saying like, look, let's stay on this human thing for a little bit. Like, let's share that, this is a reality of managing people. It's going to be hard. You're going to struggle with it sometimes. Like, let's stay in this spot, discuss it. And then we all come back out of that spot again and go back into the fun. And I found like the people who are like actually like panelists would always engage afterwards and say how helpful they found that, because often content can just be, I mean, we've all been on those webinars where you immediately can tell this is actually purely just marketing, as in they are just pitching you. And the worst thing is when you start to see someone who's reading from like a script on a webinar, when they go to answer questions, you're like, okay, so this is a sales demo that was pre-planned. Like, I don't even need to be here. There's not like, they're doing this just for themselves. And so that genuinely trying to help, not just with your product, but even in your marketing, I think is what allows you to build that relationship where they go, well, if they're willing to help me just with content, then I'm going to be a big believer that actually the product's going to help me too. And I've always found if you can, with your marketing, help people change their approach, help get them as far as they can without your product. Once they've, if you will, like completed your marketing, they're like, well, now I have to buy it. Like, now you've given me everything for free that you can. I want more. You've been very generous. Now I got to buy it so that I can do the next step of the world that you've shown me with your approach.
It's exactly what we did at HubSpot Academy. I was lucky enough to kind of create HubSpot Academy with some amazing people, and that's exactly what we did, and it's exactly what ended up working out. You buy in yourself. You see yourself in the story, right? The best marketing can see, it pulls people into the story you're telling, but also tells the story of those people, right? It's like, like, sure, people will care a little bit about your stories and whatnot, absolutely, but how do you tell a story so people, really feel themselves in that type of environment, in that setting, right? So it's this whole thing about like talking to your customers every week is paramount. If you're not a marketer, talking to customers every week, I just don't understand how you actually create great marketing. Like, when we work with customers at TAC, we're talking to a lot of the TAC customers, so our customers on a very regular basis. Because like, we can't create great marketing of any type without getting into the mind of the customer. So, I mean, that's something you could do right now next week. Like, I'm going to line up 2 or 3 conversations. And then, like, if you can't do live conversations, listen to conversations. And there's no excuse for not being able to listen to conversations, right? So the best marketers get super close to, potential buyers and customers. And they understand the psychographic kind of profile of those people. And really start to understand what they're feeling on a day-to-day basis, and how can they create different experiences and content to help them get to a place where they want to get to at the end of the day. And sometimes those customers know the place they want to get to, and some people don't know that place they want to get to, right? A lot with AI, it's like, hey, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know that if this AI technology that we're selling works well, it's probably going to free up your time a little bit to do something different or of different value. So it's like, how do you tell that story though, right? Like, a lot of the AI stuff now, it's just like efficiency, time savings, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really impact. That's just like, that's a result. That's not like real tangible, like, impact that makes you feel something, right? Versus a narrative that talks about that in the context of someone's job or actual beyond job. Like that's where it gets interesting, and that's where great marketing happens. But that takes effort, right? That you don't just check the box to do that.
Do you think then B2B marketing, B2C marketing is the same? Or if it's not, where's the difference?
There's no such, there's marketing is marketing. People are people. There's like, B2B is just a label we've put on how, a business is using their budget to buy something from another business, right? It's just B2C. You're using your personal budget to buy something. That's all it is. Like, everything, those terms are stupid and meaningless. They are, right? I mean, it's just who's paying for what. Isn't that what it is, or am I missing something?
No, I think you're right. It's just a quick way for people to understand, okay, who are you selling to? Are you selling to an individual? Are you selling to an account? Like,
No. I disagree. You're always selling to people. It's just whose money in a direct and indirect way is going to buy this maybe. You're always just selling to people.
Love it. Well, then, do you think then that like B2B marketing is usually behind B2C? Do you find that like brands that sell direct consumers are like, B2B companies are just a few years behind in what like approaches they're adopting?
I think this has been talked about ad nauseum, right? And so I don't think this is anything interesting right now. I mean, for some reason, again, the status quo is powerful. I'm not that old. At some point over the many decades, it's become this like commonplace to do B2B marketing in these ways and B2C marketing in these ways. You can't have as much fun in B2B. Okay. I think the internet is making that shift happen, right? Like, there's been outside forces that are cultivating the shift, right? But at the end of the day, like, if you look at like, way old school B2B marketing, what they do, they had fun. They were drinking whiskey and playing golf and smoking cigars and doing other things, right? Like, super old school. Like, that sounds like fun to me. I mean, maybe the golf piece, but like, we're having a dinner. Like, I mean, it's a different type of fun, right? There's generational differences happening right now. So I think it's a lot of like about the digital natives, right? We're millennials, I think. At least I'm a millennial, and like we were a generation that saw analog and digital come together, and now my kids, it was digital native fully. So like there's outside factors that are moving the B2B game into different space.
That brings us on perfectly to a post you made recently about YouTube as a sales channel. Like, what have you seen there over the last couple of years? Is it accelerating? And what do you think the future holds?
YouTube is huge. We got into YouTube big time in 2015, 16 in HubSpot. If you go to HubSpot's YouTube page or HubSpot Academy's YouTube page, they've made some changes in terms of how they show those things now. But it's one of the best investments you can make. You got to invest in YouTube. If you're a marketer and not investing in YouTube, you're doing something fundamentally wrong. I would invest unless again, like your product is more transactional and it is more of a product that consumers buy with their money. I would invest way more in YouTube than TikTok. Like if you're a B2B marketer listening to this and you're investing in TikTok and not YouTube, that is just a big mistake.
Why is that?
Why is that? YouTube is the second biggest place that people go to find information.
Yeah.
Of the world, and it's growing. TikTok is like not growing. It's not that big. It's a different generational side. Like everyone uses YouTube. Every generation uses YouTube.
Yeah. So if you're a young marketer looking to push YouTube as a channel, wants to go to the CEO and be able to say, this is what I want to do, this is why, and the CEO goes, okay, well, what does success look like? You're not going to get crazy viewing figures. Like how do you know when you're doing the right things on YouTube, and how do you know that it's influencing pipe in the right way?
It's not about pipeline. So like,
okay.
Is TikTok about pipeline? I mean, it's going to influence those buyers, right? Like YouTube is about creating a following that you then pull into some part of your brand, right? So you need to get clear on like, where are you trying to point people from YouTube? For us, like we're trying to get people to subscribe to the TAC network. That's it. One CTA. We don't care. Like, don't try to be special, confusing, right? Like unless you're a huge company like HubSpot, you might be able to have multiple CTAs. Their primary CTA for most of what they're doing on YouTube is twofold. Either check out HubSpot Academy or sign up for the free product. One of their free products. That's it. Right. So it's very simple. So the first thing is like explain YouTube. There's tons of facts about why YouTube is so big, so important, so useful, blah, blah, blah. And then it's just like a matter of like, look, it's an unlocked channel. Show your competition and what they're doing on YouTube. Oh, they're not doing anything, which is probably the case. First mover advantage.
Yeah.
Right. So like, look at the stats of how big it is. Look at your competition. Look at like, hey, how are we growing top of funnel today? Do we need a new way to grow top of funnel? Probably the answer is yes. Okay. I mean, more than that, I don't know what you need more than that, right? And say, here's the event. Like,
I'll give you an extra one, which is your sales reps will love it. Like, if you want to make sure that the sales reps know everything they should, you can make them a 3-page document that they, send this to prospects. First of all, the sales rep probably won't open that. And second of all, the prospect definitely won't open that. Whereas if you can put video content together, the sales reps are going to watch it. It's perfect for onboarding. So now marketing is able to also influence other departments. And equally, sales reps in a follow-up, hey, here's actually a video of the new feature. Hey, here's our CEO talking about this topic. Like it brings such a piece of valuable content that is really shareable within the prospect's business as well.
I love that. No, I love that. I absolutely, no, I love that. I'm just looking around here for some stuff. I can see one my kid has put on my desk. Paulie the Pup loves that. He loves that. I agree, Christian.
So then, right, again, I'm a young marketer. I'm getting going. Yes. How would you rank the priority of the channels? I've got, 100 in budget, 100 units, doesn't matter what. What's the name of this guy?
I don't know. I'm just going to put it on my shoulder to see if it's
it's the wisdom that's coming.
No, it's not going to happen.
I got 100, bucks. I've got 100 units. I've got all the different channels in front of me.
Yes.
Where should I be placing my bets?
I mean, you gotta get close to the customer. I don't know. Where are your customers? All right. They might be in private communities online, or they might be more public places in person. We do audience research for a lot of our customers, and we find some interesting things out. Like we're doing research for a manufacturing audience, and actually one of the places they still listen to a lot is radio, because they're machinists. They're in the shop listening to radio.
Love it.
Like you just gotta get close to your audience. Like, I don't know. Like I can't answer that, Christian, honestly.
That's super cool. What other strange channels are still relevant? Radio, I can't believe anyone would buy a radio ad nowadays, but that makes perfect sense.
And I mean, we found that actually some of the trade magazines are super important to be in as well for these people. One of our customers is super big on trade shows because they're selling to an audience that always goes to their annual state trade show. Recreation departments, like, you got to be there. Okay, you got to be there, right? So it's so hard for me to answer that. So the answer is get close to your customers, understand your customers, and if you're deciding things without informed data from your customers, the chance you're wasting money is probably pretty high.
Yeah. And then your second point was that you mentioned earlier, also find out where your competitors are, both to see, okay, if it's working for them, it may be good for us, but equally, if they've not used this channel yet, is that kind of greenfield advantage?
Yeah, I mean, do not obsess over your competition. I try to pay zero is not the right word. 1% to 2% of our competition I pay attention to, right? Very, very little. I'm trying to just see, like, from a engagement standpoint, online, like, where are they finding success? Because I mean, if they're over there, you should probably be there too, right? Like, it's naturally. So I think the thing that most people neglect to realize is you can also create, how am I trying to say this? You could, I'll pause there. I'll pause. I'll let you go to the next question.
I'm still interested on the YouTube topic. Like, is there a certain content? So if YouTube is the right channel for your customers, is there certain content you would recommend? Like, is it, each month show new features? Is it every 3 months do an update on, hey, this is who we are as a company? Like, what's your foundational content you should be doing? And then what's the variable stuff you should be updating?
I mean, it's probably very related to, like, talking with the symptoms, the problems, the solution, and your product over time. You have a nice collection of all 4 of those standard customer journey stage content. Where you start, it's probably more at the symptom problem level, right? So it's teaching. It's teaching and having fun, right? I mean, you can check out ComStore's YouTube page, TAC Network's YouTube page. You want a variety of shorts that are 60-second or less videos. You want some clips, but it's not overthinking it, Christian. I mean, right? It's like, it's not. You don't have to overthink this by any means.
And have you ever dabbled with paying to have YouTube ads? So taking your video and then actually using it as an advert on top of other YouTube videos?
I've not yet. We are going to do that at TAC, but I've not been part of that yet. Have you?
No, because I'd be super interested. I mean, I think I get Monday.com ads probably 100 times a day. They, for some reason, think I would be a super user based on how much money they have spent trying to make me use Monday.com. But it works. Like, I mean, there's enough times when YouTube's on in the background that you're gonna have a 2-minute advert play because you're doing something else. And think of how many other mediums, when an advert appears, you've actually already blocked it before it pops up, or you're skipping it as quickly as you can. Now, yes, YouTube you can skip, but there is enough time where you're basically using it as like a Spotify. You've got a podcast or something playing in the background. So I'd be really interested. I think you actually get a lot of full plays on YouTube ads that you're not getting on other platforms because people are fully present while engaging with that medium, which means they can hit that skip button.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about generic marketing, video is one of the best ways to combat that. Like this right now, like we're live, we're raw, we're just talking about things. And so you can, of course, make it a bit more planned and scripted and whatnot. And for some things you should, for other things you shouldn't. So if you're not investing a lot of your marketing dollars on video, I think that's a mistake these days. Just overall, right? Like,
we talk about as well in marketing, like make sure your content is reusable. If you write a long form piece of content, like splice it up, make it into tweets, whatever it may be. Like video is one of the most reusable things. Like it's so valuable because you can use that content over and over. And also because it's time stamped, people are actually much more willing for it to be like okay with it being out of date. if you watch a video on YouTube and it clearly says this was released 2 years ago, and then you see the product later and it's slightly different, you're like, yeah, well, of course it was. Like it's been 2 years. So there's a lot more forgiveness for out of date marketing on YouTube, because you don't expect people to go in and delete their older videos. Whereas if I download a case study and it's a customer that's already churned, when it was a PDF, that's weird. I expect that not to be on the platform anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, great videos are timeless to some degree, right? I mean, sometimes the older the video, the better, right? If you go, I think HubSpot deleted a lot of them, unfortunately, but like some of those videos from 2009, 10, 11, 12, those are like gems. People are like, oh my God, look at that. Like, everything's new is old again, or, whatever the saying is. So and like, it's same with like a book, right? Timeless books, right? So I think that's a bit harder in B2B, just given the nature of things. But video, I think, is something that does have that, to your point, that ability to withstand the test of time.
Love it. To something that may not stand the test of time, and we'll be careful here, because I don't know what LinkedIn's policy is on swearing. What do you think of? What do you think of LinkedIn beefs as a way of selling?
Is that a new hamburger? What is that?
LinkedIn beef. It's vegan, I think.
Vegan. LinkedIn is always doing something stupid. So, like putting games into the platform. Yeah, I'm going to play a game on LinkedIn.
Is it still in?
How many people listening are playing games? Like, that's what I want to know. How many people listening are playing games?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's just PR at the end of the day. The people doing like sensational type stuff, it's just a different type of PR now, right? There's the PR has evolved into this just crazy thing, and doing a sensational stunt. It's a stunt on LinkedIn. Yeah, sure, okay. I mean, yeah, again, it's like, it's who you are as a person. If that's what you guys want to, do, if that's what you want to do, then there you go do it, But I think, you got to think about like your reputation, your brand's reputation, your employees. You got to think kind of long term about all this stuff. And of course, it's going to be very polarizing. So you just got to understand the consequences for what you do. Like,
Yeah. One of my things with all of this kind of sensationalism, like you said, part of the problem I've seen is, like, one, it sensationalism creates sensationalism, and so you end up with everyone then trying it, and then it's everyone just yelling loudly. This is the opposite of sensationalism. This is just a puffer applauding. I love it. So you get more sensationalism, and then the puffers actually made me lose my train of thought. That's fantastic.
Yes.
What was I going to say? More sensationalism. You go, and it will come back to me.
What was Christian going to say? I'm in the background screwing it up. Yeah, it's kind of like the world we live in, where everything has become like the last 2-3 decades. It's like, what is it called? I don't even know. Okay, I don't watch TV. What is the the Kardashians? What is that?
Yeah, like reality TV.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, whew, that's what that is, right? What we're talking about.
Yeah. I remembered what I was going to say. The thing I was going to say is, every so often someone comes out and they say something that is genius, right? So like I really liked, although I liked what he's talking about again now, but it's taken a few years, like Scott Galloway. Like, some of his early stuff I really, really liked. But then the problem is, like, you can come up with something absolutely genius, but once you've said that 5 or 6 times in back-to-back podcasts, people understandably go, no, we get it now. Tell us the next genius thing. Yeah. And they're like, no, but like this is hard to come up with. You don't just kind of come up with this. And so you see these people that have one great idea, then actually move into sensationalism because they've gotten the limelight. People are saying, look, we'll give you the advance for a second book. You just need to tell us what it's about. And so they go, and they write 4 or 5 books that the first one, genius. And then after a while, they're just spouting nonsense because people are still listening to them. And I think
it props their ego up too. Their ego gets propped up, Yeah,
for sure. I don't do any of that stuff. And one of the reasons is I don't know how you could sleep with the stress, because when you're doing sensationalist stuff, the, you're always on edge because you're trying to get a response, but getting that response is it's antagonistic.
It's attention horse, right? They want attention. Like
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if someone sees if 300 people, I should say, see a post of mine or 300,000. Like I don't care. Like I'm going to use LinkedIn to learn and share my thoughts. And I could give two rats asses about that LinkedIn algorithm. Like who freaking cares? Like, have I changed a little bit based off of what I'm seeing works and what people like? Sure, I start to post a few more photos of myself, but I try not to just be stupidly blatant about like, oh, here's a post with a photo of myself every single time. Like, come on. Like, yes, I've adapted a bit. Like, most people do. You adapt to your environment, right? As a species trying to survive in the LinkedIn freaking battle, like whatever,
Yeah.
right? But I'm trying to stick to the fundamentals of like learning in public, sharing some information, trying to be genuine and just be helpful. Like that's all I'm trying, and be myself. Like right now, I think I'm pretty much myself. I'm loose. I love, I think this conversation is great.
Yeah,
I love
definitely.
shooting the shit and just talking about things that are on your minds. And you need to have an opinion. So don't think we're saying that don't have an opinion. You need an opinion, and you're going to have people that always disagree, and then some people that agree. Hopefully, so you have an opinion and a point of view. But you start to the spectrum of that can start to get into that sensationalism, and that just gets kind of nonsense.
Yeah, I think for me as well, it relates back a little bit to what you said earlier about good marketing creates an emotional response, and I think sometimes bad marketing only goes for the emotional response.
Ooh.
They forget that like you're meant to then help people, and the emotional response is to make them aware that you can help them and the outcomes of helping them. But instead, sensationalism is like we're just going for the emotional response, and that's why exactly, and that's why it's PR, like you said, because you get the pop, but there's no sustainability to that, and so you go, well, we need to poke the bear again. How are we going to poke the bear?
It's the impact versus just the emotion. Mm-hmm. And
So
if you have impact on someone, you're going to evoke emotion because they're going to feel something really strong because like there's genuine impact that has happened. Like I can't tell you how many people still to this day share with me, my God, HubSpot Academy has impacted my life in such a profound way. And like that's the whole reason why we did it. Like all the people that have been part of HubSpot Academy, that are still part of HubSpot Academy, we're just here to help people. Like our purpose was to transform the way the world does business, to educate and inspire people so that we together transform the way the world does business. I'll never forget that. We had pins about that. Like that's what it's all about. We together at the same time, right?
Super cool.
So anyway.
I love it. When I was a CSM back at Tessian, we had this concept of like, you should be trying to get your champion promoted. But the way you're going to do that is that at their yearly review, if they're writing a one-page summary of their successes, Tessian should be one of their successes, and our metrics should be on there to show how good a job they've done and how smart they were to pick us. So it's still about using our tool, but it's using it so well that they look great at their job and they get promoted. So it was tying those two together, that emotional thing of how do I make sure you're so good at using us that you want to brag about using us, but because it's also going to move you along in your career. And that's why people then take you to their next job.
Yes. If you just think about all your marketing through the impact it could have on someone, it would change how you market pretty dramatically, I think.
Yeah. So does this, is this people first go to market, or how's that different?
Sorry, which one is? What are you referring to?
This idea of it making impact on the person.
Oh, yeah. That's people first. I mean, People-First GTM is kind of born out of this idea that I've had for a long time. I even own the domain, serve people first. And I learned servant leadership from great people from the university I went to. My first job, definitely HubSpot. Like, you might not like him, might not. I like what he has to say. Simon Sinek, right? Like leaders eat last. There's a lot of people that have written about servant leadership. I'm forgetting some of the other authors, but this idea of like you as a leader are last in line, right? Like everything else comes before that. So like the number one thing is your customers. The number two thing is the company. The number three is your team. The number four is yourself, right? So that was it's probably still to this day HubSpot's mantra, and I love it. I just love that idea. And People First GTM is about three things: storytelling, relationships, and partnerships. Which ultimately the impact for the business is better efficiency, because it creates this word of mouth flywheel. It creates a stronger brand, a more lovable, sustainable brand. It creates an ecosystem of kind around the brand. But for the person that's like buying something and using your product, it should create impact. So I think that's a great call. It's something that we should probably talk more about. It's like, how does People First GTM have an impact on people? It's because you're doing stuff like we just talked about for the last 40 minutes around really being intentional with how you think about what you're saying, how you're saying it, how you're helping someone learn about something, how you're helping them get motivated and inspired, like all of those different things.
Yeah, love it. If people wanted to shift to People First GTM, like what's the first thing they should be doing, or what should they check that they are already doing to build on?
Do you have a story? And then how do those people that you're trying to connect with like relate to that story and like find themselves in that story? Like you need a rally cry, you need a belief, like we were saying, you need an opinion, you need a point of view. And how does that connect to what those other people are feeling, the symptoms of their problems, the problems, like where the world is going, right? I mean, great People First GTM is rooted in, it's not just product marketing, it's positioning and messaging. It's that piece of the marketing puzzle.
Love it. And then kind of keeping that positioning up to date, like how often do you need to be, I suppose just you're always speaking to customers and you're always tweaking the positioning?
Well, yeah, always. Yeah. You always talk to customers every week, right, Christian? Every week. I mean, you talk to, I think that's why I love sales so much. I've always thought of myself as a marketer who loves sales. And since I started my own company with Nick, like I love selling. So like for many reasons, but like it's just talking to people, talking to customers.
That's super cool. And then, okay, I'm excited because you're very much finger on the pulse when it comes to marketing. What's coming next? Like what is the world not quite ready for? Like you shouldn't be doing it yet, but you should be thinking about for 2025. Like what do you think the future of marketing looks like, but it's not quite ready today?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm that good at answering that question. I don't really know. I mean, there's of course going to be change. Can I predict it? No, I don't really try to make those, again, like prediction posts. I think you got to stick to the fundamentals. Like when you see a new channel, most of the time you should try it and look at it and see if it works. Absolutely. But they don't stick with it if it doesn't make sense, right? Like, don't just keep doing TikTok or whatever, or like X because it's changed or new or whatever, right? Like, and you can't be everywhere. So my opinion is like focus your marketing, not try to be on X, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. Like what? Like that's like just dumb, right? Because like you're spreading the quality of what you can do then across all that, right? And every time you do something, it's a reflection of you and the brand. Like that's something that I live and die by, right? And Nick, my co-founder, knows this. I'm obsessed with like our reputation and brand. So like if you're trying to do too much, it's no good. Like we learned this lesson the first year of the business where we tried too many things. We had like this URL, do this, do that, point people at people like, wait, what are we doing? Like, no, this is what we're doing now, right? Like, and it's still maybe too much, but like simplify it and focus the vectors, right? Damesh talked a lot of, still does to this day probably, but like align all the vectors. So instead of you have like all these arrows going all these different directions, you're taking all the energy and putting it behind one arrow. Very, very important.
Yeah, love it. I've had this conversation with so many people where, marketing ideas in a company comes from everyone. Everyone has a marketing idea. And my response to them always is like, look, every marketing idea in isolation, it could be good. Like it may be they're expensive for the return, but like every marketing idea could be good. But do they compound on top of each other? Because if we do 10 different things and each of them are good, but they have no relation to each other and they hit different people at different times, they're good, but they're not stacking on top. If we do 10 things and they all stack on top of each other, that's when we're doing really good marketing. And I always find that's a really helpful way when people come to you with a crazy idea that they want to do. But you're like, look, it's great, but like, tell me how it stacks with everything else we're doing, or tell me why that's a better direction to go in, and then we can bring it into the calendar. But otherwise, it's just marketing for fun, as opposed to actually with this stacking motion, which you just see has this impact.
Well, give me ideas that we want ideas that help us market with our customers and buyers, not for them. That's just like, it's such a massive, simple mindset shift. Marketing with people versus for people, or at people.
Yes,
like
that,
so just
love
don't
it.
market at people, like market with people. So going back to your question on the future, I do fundamentally think sometime in this decade there will be a new version of a website. I hate websites. I'm so sick of the websites out there. Like, oh, they're painful. They're painful.
What was the? I'm showing how I love technology, but I'm still out of the loop on some stuff. Was there like something 5? Was it HTML5 or something 5 years ago, 3-4 years ago? That websites were meant to be so much slicker and better, and I've not noticed any difference. What?
No, I mean the way that we present information on websites, I think that will change at some point. I really do. So so whoever's thinking through like, how do we take AI and apply it to the website? That's very interesting to me. Because everyone has a website, right? So whoever creates a company around that can win and solve an actual problem. I mean, how could you not bet against that, or bet with that? Like.
Do you think it's gonna be like hyper personalized? So if the website that you get is for you?
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I don't know. The hyper personalization thing feels like, I don't know, a fallacy. So I don't know. I maybe there's a new standard. I'm still a huge proponent and being very bullish on Web3. Like I got into like that space, started learning about it back in 2013. Like that's coming. That will have its Chat GPT moment.
And what is Web3 for the uninitiated, such as myself? Like what is it?
Decentralized internet where there are less gatekeepers. I mean, there's so many definitions, right? But like, a more open and free internet, if you will, built on a different architecture than the internet is built on today, right? It's built on transparency. It's probably the easiest way I think about it, right? Transparency in terms of all the transactions and things that happen on the internet. So yeah, I mean, that to me, like that's coming. Your guess is as good as mine, though. Like I have no idea.
No, I love it. My prediction, and this goes back to a little bit about what you're saying of don't market, at your prospects, like market with them. And I think we're seeing that shift kind of forced on companies just because you can't raise crazy money like you used to. When you used to be able to raise a lot of money, you could spend a lot of that shouting your message. Now you just can't do it. So I think the companies that will win will find a way for their prospects to kind of pull them into the market, as opposed to having to shout from the outside. You make sure there's seeds within your market, and you're going to be pulled in because people will want to hear more of what you have to say. And for me, that's why I'm at Comsort. Like the Go-to-Network, like it is the network of people within your space, whether it's investors, advisors, prospects, customers, colleagues, like the trusted voice of the person next to you, I think is a lot more powerful now because it's the loudest voice. Whereas before, like I said, I get a Monday.com advert 15 times a day. But I don't think I've ever had someone go, yeah, you should try Monday.com for that problem. So I've not tried Monday. It's not converting me.
You're spot on, because if you think about a litmus test, like let's take 2 examples: one email, one phone call. You have an email from a friend or an email from a business. Which one do you pay attention to? Easy answer. Phone call. You have a phone call from a friend, phone call from a business. Who you pay attention to? It is that simple to understand if you just think about it in that term.
Yeah. And then it goes back to what you're saying of that's why you need to have an impact and need to have an emotional response. Because if you do those 2 things, that's what human beings talk about. They talk about something that impacted them and they had the positive outcome and it made them feel something. That's what we want to tell other people about since we were cavemen.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So yeah, I mean, it's, go ahead.
Who would you recommend like reading? What books would you recommend? So like I will go first. I would say if you've never
Yep.
read it, the Ogilvy on Advertising. It's
Yeah.
the front cover is black and white, and it's beautiful inside as well because it's all of the old prints of the adverts they ran. And I
Yep.
think he got what marketing is like, and you see that, and you just see what 10 out of 10 looks like, and it resets your own internal measuring stick for how good marketing can be.
Yeah. So there's a few books that are on my reading list that I think are going to be good to read. I'll give you some. So The Brain That Changes Itself, The Second Machine Age, You Already Know How to Be Great, Multipliers. I have a very long book list that I could pull up too. But those are some that
Awesome.
I've what's that?
We'll put it in the comments
Yeah.
after the show. We'll put that in the comments. That'll be super helpful.
Yeah. And some of them I've looked at and then like if you want to like look at people who've got great book recommendations, like fiction and nonfiction, I mean Seth Godin. You go to his website, you just look for book recommendations. It's just wonderful. If you want to look at some like more like, I mean, he does both nonfiction and fiction. Andrew Chen, he's got always a good reading list. So yeah.
Nice. What are you reading at the moment?
Nothing right now because this summer has been no books per se. I always have books around me. Like I'll give you this book. Okay, there's good and bad things about I think this person to some degree, but like I always like just opening this book up. Oh, can you not see it?
Oh wait, no. Put it in front of your body. Yeah, there we go. Principles, the Ray Dalio, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is,
Was it Bridge Point or Bridgewater? Bridge Point?
Bridgewater.
Bridgewater.
Yeah. It's just very interesting, right? Because like I think history is one of the best predictors of the future, and I think there's a lot of like interesting stuff in here. So I like just sometimes opening up a chapter of a book that I've read before and just reading it again, or like thinking about it, right? Like, yeah, I can't wait till I have a bigger library or like a real library. I have a lot of books scattered about, like I'm sure most people do, but like I would love to just, at some point, I have 3 very young kids, so it's hard, but like, have an office with a library in it and just be like, I can like.
Gonna be old wooden bookcase, green leather chair, some whiskey. Is that your vibe, or what are you looking for in a library?
I like some Irish whiskey. Yes, definitely.
Awesome. And then if people want to learn more about TAC, where should they go? What can they check out? Obviously, I assume now YouTube after our conversation earlier.
Oh, yeah. Check out TAC on YouTube, tacnetwork.com, tacinsider.com. Those are the 2 places. One is like a free open resource center. We do an awesome weekly email. That's all like 0-click content, meaning you can open up the email and within 20 to 30 seconds, you get value, Christian. You don't have to like click. It's like, nice. Yeah. And Comstor is a great email now too, every week, every Thursday from Mac called Warm Revenue. So check out Comstor's Warm Revenue email. But it's the same idea, right? Like just you get value right in the email. So yeah, TAC Network, TAC Insider.
Where do you think companies forget about giving value right up front? Because to get big, they most likely knew that at the beginning. Like where does that start to get washed?
It's the conversion. I'm somewhat guilty of manifesting this idea at HubSpot where you're like, you have to have a form. You have to give some value, but then you have to ask for them to fill out a form to get it. Like I definitely, I have taken a step back and I 100% changed my mind. Like, I do not think that's the way you should do things anymore. Like, no. That's not good.
When did that moment happen? Was it a light bulb moment or slowly over time?
I think it was definitely inspired through a lot of the work that I was doing with David and Dave at Drift. So probably 2018-ish, 2017, 2018. I was like, wait a minute, there's a much better way to do this. And now over the last 5 years, I've completely changed tune. And I just did a post today about this, about resource centers. I just think resource centers are going to also get a makeover and change, right? Which is a big part of most websites. So it's an exciting time, man. It's like it's the change of innovation is not going to slow down, right? Because computing power and all the powerful things that humans have now isn't slowing down.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And we're also hungrier for more. I feel like people want more change. It's not just that change is coming. It's the moment something's new and available. Like, yeah, give me this. I want 100 of it.
They want more the creativity. Your ability to be creative and take an idea and put it into action has never been a better time, right? And that probably will hopefully continue to be that way and get better and better over time. Like your ability to say, man, I wish I had this thing. Like now, like with Claude, you could go to Claude and probably do a lot of what you want to do with Claude once you just figure out some like nice prompts, right? Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Awesome. I think, yeah, creativity as a skill and something we should lean into is a perfect way to end this. Oh, go on.
I was say creative intelligence. I started talking about that back in 2019 and 2020. It's a amalgamation of like different types of intelligence. I actually have articles on the internet about it. Just Google creative intelligence, CQ. That's the thing that people need to lean into these days. Creative intelligence.
Love it. Okay. Mark, thank you for joining us on this second GTN Show episode. I think Mac is back next week. He's currently on a flight over to New York. Anyone wants to learn more about TAC, feel free, reach out to Mark. Anyone that's interested in Go-to-Network and how they can use their network to be able to grow their business, feel free to reach out to me or Comstor. And yeah, I hope this was fun for everyone. Look forward to next week. Thank you again for joining, Mark.
Thanks, Christian.